Good evening. I'd like to call to order the MSAD 51 Board of Directors meeting for Monday, June 3rd. Welcome, everyone. I know we have a bit of a smaller group tonight, but we're going to kick it off with some recognition. I am so proud to have some students here tonight representing student perspective. It is such an important aspect of making us an effective school board. We are proud to not only have 2 student reps who serve on the board itself, but this year we also had other students who served as student reps on some of our board committees. And tonight we are going to take a few moments to recognize these students. So I'm going to start off with recognizing our equity student representative, Jordan Kuhl. Kim apologizes, who's our chair for that committee tonight. She sent a few words for me to share. If many of you have been following along, our equity committee had worked really hard this year to get a plan in place that the board approved earlier, and having Jordan part of that process was so important. And Kim sent these following words for me to share. Jordan has brought such an important student perspective that the entire committee, and in particular the staff, found very insightful. She's wise and passionate and cares about every one of her peers. So I would like to take a minute, and I have a little certificate, Jordan, to share with you. And then next up is our student rep, Sophia, who also served as part of the policy committee. So Sophia's term on the board is a 2-year term, so she will be joining us again next year, but committee assignments happen 1 year at a time. So as the committee and the board process goes every year, actually it will happen at our next board meeting, the last of this existing board. They'll elect a new chair and vice chair, and then committees are reformed every year. But Sophia will be joining us again on the board, but then the policy, she may or may not serve on the policy committee. So we just want to recognize all of her contributions to the policy committee this past year, and hopefully that'll be a committee that you can continue to serve on. And again, thank you so much for bringing your student voice to that committee. So thank you. And then for our committee representatives, I wanted to ask Tom, who is the committee chair for the curriculum committee, to say a few words about Riley Record.
Sure. So I want to thank Riley for her service this year on the curriculum committee. Riley was a quiet presence on the committee, but one thing that I can say is that when she spoke, everybody was listening intently, because we'll be talking about our stuff and asking our questions, but she brought that real lived student experience that was so much more meaningful than anything that the rest of us could say. So there was wisdom in her comments, no matter when she spoke. And I hope that Riley, that you continue to stay involved, because we could all benefit from that in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Riley. So we also wanted to recognize 2 other students who probably many of you who might follow along online don't realize, who are here each week, and those are AV technicians. One is graduating, so Zachary Vanny, he's been a constant presence for, like I said, everyone who's following along online gets to see all of his camera work and maybe some of his timer skills as he puts up the timer for public comment. And so he's been a constant presence for us, and it's been really nice to have students represented in this room for these meetings to make all of this happen. So I'll start with our graduating senior, who's also valedictorian, Zachary Vanny. Thank you. And I get to shake your hand again. I don't know how these students do all the things that they do, but he's also in his baseball uniform because I'm assuming had a game today. Practice. And then last, I hope we see Lincoln again next year. Lincoln is a junior, and to continue serving as an AV technician for our school board meetings. It's been, like I said, really great to have students be able to serve in these roles, and I want to thank Lincoln and really hope to see you there again next year. Yes. All right. So, and thanks for everyone being here tonight. So thanks once again to our students. Okay. Now we're going to move to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 20th meeting as presented?
So moved.
Christina, thank you. Can I get a second? Thank you, Megan. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. All right, now we're going to move to public comment. The board welcomes and recognizes the value of public comment. To ensure public comment is fair and orderly, we follow procedures outlined in our board policy BEDH, and we ask that all members of the public do so as well. We follow this policy to keep the meeting civil, respectful, and productive. We also hope that this allows for all community members who would like to speak to be heard. We ask the speakers use the designated podium when making their comments and speak into the microphone. If you are interested in speaking, please wait until you're recognized by myself, the chair. Comments by individuals are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at a meeting. A clock will be visible on screen. Like I said, our students help put our clock on screen to help keep track of time. After 3 minutes, the timer will go off and comments should be wrapped up. Please state your name and town of residence before beginning your remarks. Residents and staff members will be given priority. Our policy allows for 30 total minutes, although that can be modified at the discretion of the board. As a reminder, public comment is not a time for a discussion, Q&A, or debate with the board and speakers. It is a time for community members to express their opinions on school and educational matters. The board will not comment on remarks made by speakers during the public comment period. Please know that this does not mean we're not listening. Lastly, keep your comments respectful and civil. That includes members of the audience. Please do not interrupt or respond to speakers' comments. And that I would like to ask that all comments are directed to myself, the chair, and not at or about individuals in the schools or community. Would anyone here like to speak for public comment? Great, thank you.
Well, I'm glad I beat the rush tonight. Good evening, Mrs. Chairperson. Thank you so much. My name is Sean McCloy. I live in Cumberland, and I own a medical practice on Route 1 in Cumberland as well. I'm a family doctor with some additional training in sports medicine, and I want to thank all of the board for all their hard work on planning the new school. I'm strongly in favor of the overall project, the new school. I think it's a great idea, reducing overcrowding, all the benefits of that. I am concerned, however, about the turf field that has been proposed, and especially concerned over the safety of plastic turf fields in general, safety to the players, and safety to our community as a whole from the harmful chemicals that they will forever leach into our waterways. As a physician, I like to focus on the science, and I feel that what was presented in the public Zoom meeting about the turf field was misleading in regard to the science. I'm going to email links to all of you around some journal articles that I'm going to reference this evening. Some of them are written for lay people, and some are more technical medical journal articles, but I feel it's important that you all have access to that data so that you know what I'm talking about. Two journal articles in particular that were mentioned during this Zoom meeting, and again, I think were misinterpreted by your experts. First one was looking at high school athletes specifically. This is in the May 2021 Current Orthopedic Practice Journal, and that article concluded that there was a 58% higher rate of injuries to high school athletes. These include catastrophic injuries of ACL tears and ankle injuries things that could either be season ending or even career ending for these athletes. Another journal article in the American Journal of Sports Medicine, published in 2022, looked at 53 studies since the 1970s and kind of compiled all that data together. Your expert interpreted the conclusion as it was really a wash as to whether there was a higher incidence of injury rates on artificial turf versus natural grass. But the first sentence in the conclusion of that journal article says, the available body of literature suggests a higher rate of foot and ankle injuries on artificial turf, both old generation and new generation turf, compared to natural grass. That's a pretty clear-cut conclusion. So there are a lot of professional athlete organizations that also recommend natural grass over artificial turf, and many professional organizations are switching back to natural grass. So as it stands, I'm going to vote no on the overall project because of the turf. I know that there's a feeling there's a vocal minority around this issue. If you look at the last vote on the overall school project, it's pretty close in terms of the percentage of the community in favor. So I would suggest that if it is voted in, that you set aside the turf project for at least the next few years. There's experiments now on hybrid systems where they are weaving synthetic fibers into natural grass, making it friendlier for the athletes, but more durable than natural grass. So please wait a few more years on the turf. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. I'll be closing public comment. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move to presentations. We're going to start with the strategic priorities year-end report.
All right, good evening. I'm here to present the year-end progress report for the strategic priorities for 23-24, and just give you an update. If you recall, this was approved by the Board of Directors back in September, and there was a mid-year progress report I presented to the board on January 16th of this year. So I'm here to do the year-end progress report and on behalf of the leadership team. So just a reminder, there are 4 major strategic priorities that are part of the strategic plan that is still in existence for the district and has been since 2018. Skills for the 21st century, skills for life, early childhood education, the critical building block, every student college and career ready, and wellness foundation for teaching and learning. And this is the schedule, the annual schedule that we typically follow each year. Again, in September, the board votes on the priorities that are going forward for the year. You hear from the school administrators and then from district directors as to their priorities for the year that are related to the strategic priorities for the district. There's a mid-year update and then an end-of-year report in June. So for the area of wellness, there are several areas that we were continuing with this year. One of them was ALICE, obviously, which is something that we implemented 2 years ago in our district and trained all of our students and our staff. And just continuing to monitor that program through the safety committee this year. The emergency plan is now finalized. We now have a digital emergency plan. The full plan has been shared with 25 people who have a need to know and need to access. And there are emergency plans at each school that are directed and connected to the district's emergency plan. Huge kudos, again, to the safety committee. There's also the Sandy Hook Promise, which started in March. We've partnered for free with the Sandy Hook Promise. We were selected as one of their schools. We now have an open app you can get into. It's on our website. And anyone can provide us with an anonymous tip. We have received about a dozen tips since we've started that approach in March. And we follow up on every tip. Sandy Hook has a protocol that is followed. We have school groups at every school. We've also continued working on nutrition, homework, which are two areas we wanted to finalize this year, and largely have done so. And then the area in the middle is supporting staff plan. Based on the survey results from last year and the staffing shortages in 2022-23, the staff plan was a huge push for us this year. The second area is early childhood education, and that's primarily focused on the short-term facilities plan, which is the portable classrooms. We have 29 of them now on the district, and at this rate, we will need a lot more based on the enrollment. It also involves, obviously, the proposed project that is before the voters on June 11th. The third major area is college and career ready, and these are the SIPs, or site improvement plans, for each school and each department in our district. And I will not click on those links. Those have been available all year, and they are on our website if you want to check those out. That's the work that's done in each school and department. And finally, the 21st century learning. There's a couple areas that we've been working on this year. Profile of a learner, which is not completed. We are hoping to have that done by the end of the year, but that is something that will go into next year. And the equity and inclusion plan, which obviously the board has voted in and is now at least a plan that's been a goal for years and years in our district. So kudos to the Equity Leadership Steering Committee and the board for approving that plan. So the year-end progress report, if you recall, in January, I put the same chart in front of you, and you can see that the light shaded green areas are the areas that were completed as of January of 2024. The dark green areas are the areas that have been completed since January. So if you see shaded or light shaded green areas that go all the way across to 100% completion, that was completed in January. For example, number 3, if you look at staffing, goal of 100% staffing, we largely met that goal as of January. We're at 99%, and basically called that a goal that had been met in January. The vacancy rate, that didn't take into account our year-to-year vacancy rate. Right now it's at 6%. That is average for other years that we have filled staff in the past. If you recall, last year during the staffing shortages, in the middle of the year, we were down 10 to 12%. So going into the end of the year, we were over 20% with staff vacancies due to staff shortages and inability to find people to fill positions. But this year has been a very, very different story. I think partly because there's more people in the market, and secondly, we put a lot of things into place. I give a lot of kudos to our HR department and to our leadership team for really stepping up to the plate and doing a lot of work in that area. Two areas that have had a lot of growth since January are homework. Schools developing homework guidelines. This was put on hold during the pandemic. This was work that was started, and now we wanted to make sure it was completed. The Wellness Committee has been overseeing that with the leadership team to make sure that that is completed. And it's pretty much, we are almost done with that project, so we called it 100%. Same thing with wellness. As Mrs. MacArthur gave a report last month about the Wellness Committee's initiatives, one of the areas she highlighted was nutrition. And looking at food options and messaging communication. She was joined by John Carlson and Molly Costable from the food service program. And you got information on the nutrition program. So largely the goals have been met in those two areas. So this supporting staff plan, as I mentioned, is mostly done. There was a couple of areas that are still in need of some more work. One of them was restructuring the staff feedback sessions. That was an area that was some restructuring that was done in January, inviting teams to invite myself to meetings. I had 2 or 3 different teams in the district that took me up on that offer to just have some face-to-face discussion. But other than that, I think some restructuring still needs to happen. We've done different things over the years. We've done all staff feedback, we've done staff meeting feedback, small group feedback. Obviously, the surveys are every year, so that's an area that needs further development. Another area that you will see is not in green yet, but dedicated staff access to facilities. We made a lot of inroads in that area this year. We've had staff that have really wanted to have access to the pool, the gym, the fitness area, fitness room, and we've been able to provide a lot of access to the pool, some limited access to the fitness room, depending on student schedules. And I think an area that we keep being asked about is, can we have dedicated staff time in the gym? So that's an area that we'd like to keep working on. And then one that was really fun, and hopefully you've seen some of them, staff highlights on social media. We've probably had at least a dozen, maybe 15 staff members who have been highlighted on social media throughout the year, and we'd like to continue that next year. It seemed to be a big hit with a lot of people. Another area was safety, number 4. I mentioned the digital emergency operations plan, which is completed. We also have been talking on the safety committee for a couple of years about taking the state training, that is available. It's free of charge to school districts, and we were able to get on the list and get a number of our staff members trained on threat assessment and behavioral threat assessment. We've been using that protocol, which is called CSTAGs, now for about half a year. So we have completed the goals in the safety area for this year, including the next one, which I already mentioned, was the Sandy Hook Promise and the implementation. The next area is the school project, and in terms of developing a concept design for a new school, that one has been completed. That concept design is obviously the one that has guided the board in recommending it to the voters, so on June 11th. But the actual concept design goal has been completed, and setting a referendum timeline and conducting a bunch of engagement activities. Thank you to the public engagement committee that's been involved, very involved. That goal has been met. The next one, in terms of revolving renovations at the Wilson School and High School, the design and planning of those projects is 50% completed. We're hoping to have those in place this summer. The Wilson project is looking more confident at this point in terms of getting it done. And we're still waiting on some more information on the high school science wing project. Again, we're running into contractor issues. We'll have to just kind of see where that lands, and we'll be updating the board on that. Obviously, the short-term facilities plan was completed as of September of this past year of 23, so that's been completed most of the year. The next one was around reviewing best practices and assessment for writing. We've had groups of teachers and administrators working on this throughout the year. They've made more headway. Since January, it is an area that will need to carry over to next year. Our incoming curriculum director of academic services, Mari Trebelcock, has that on her list as to working with teachers and administrators in that area, as well as the next area where there hasn't been a lot of progress in that area, partly because our curriculum director retired, as you remember, in March, and so there's been limited areas that we've been able to dig into. But that's on Mari's list for next year as well. Additionally, the profile of a learner made some progress, but again, we're not completed with that project yet. We will be hopefully landing that in the fall, so that will be a carryover. Next one, of course, is the equity plan that was approved by the board. That was completed. That approval actually happened in January, as well as equity training for student athletes. We already have a date on the books for Lawrence Alexander to be here with the fall athletes in August to open that up, and we'll be doing that twice a year from now on. And then the last two the board had put on hold. That was the solar energy project, working with the town, and the second one was around the strategic planning progress, which has been deferred to next year. There is a link at the bottom of this page, and this is on the website as well, that you can go and look at all of the notes of the site improvement plans. There's notes from January, and there's been updated for June. I won't go to those right now, but those are on our website. So recommended priorities for next year, this is just a draft list. It's not the actual list I'm going to be putting in front of the board. That needs more work. But right now, I can already tell you that just based on some of the things I just mentioned in presenting, you'll see those items on here. Obviously, the revolving renovation projects are in progress. So that's number one. Number two, depending on the vote on June 11th with the school and campus project, that will let us know what our next steps are, obviously, whether we're moving forward with a new project or we're developing a new plan for more portable classrooms here on campus, which will be needed. Third one is writing instruction and assessment and math curriculum. I just mentioned both those areas. Those will be continuing next year, as well as the profile of a learner. The safety plan at the district level is digitized and completed. However, the school emergency plans still need to be updated and aligned to the new district plan, which is continuing work with the safety committee. I mentioned the continuing to work on the supporting staff plan. This will be a new plan for next year. Leadership team felt it was important to continue this plan for at least one more year to make sure that we're on solid footing with a lot of the areas that we've started this year, and we'd like to continue those areas. And then the next area is strategic planning process. I know the board has an interest and has expressed interest in getting the strategic planning process started again, since it's been, at this point, 6 years since that conversation around the current strategic plan, which was intended for 3 years. And obviously the pandemic got in the way of that. And then finally, and again, these are draft right now, this is something the leadership team discussed, looking at the stakeholder surveys, and we're at 65% overall satisfaction levels, as I mentioned in the presentation on the stakeholder surveys last month. We'd like to get that up incrementally. We decided not to put a number on it, just saying we'd like to see incremental growth and improvement in the next year's iteration of those surveys. So those are 9 areas right now that we'd like to mostly carry over, and a couple are additions, obviously. I think that might be the last one. I thought there was another one. So that's it. That is the strategic priorities progress update to the board. And again, we're putting a finalized draft in front of the board at the board's retreat in August, and then approval of those priorities. Generally, the board approves those priorities either as recommended or amended in September.
Thank you. Is there any questions?
Just have, thanks, Jeff. One quick question that I was curious about regarding the homework item is what format we might anticipate seeing that in once it's finalized.
Student handbooks and parent handbooks.
Okay.
So that's where each school is going to have their own version from that policy. And they will be including that in their handbooks, hopefully this year, this summer.
Okay, great.
That was the goal.
Thanks, Jeff, for this. Can you just remind me what's on the revolving renovations for Mabel I. Wilson?
So Mabel I. Wilson, it's about half of all of the exterior windows, which is the windows on the Tuttle roadside and then wrapping around that front part of the building, and 50% of the exterior doors. We were hoping to do more, but when the prices came back with contractor rates, we're able to do it just about half. So the other half is money that was included in the bond, with some of that money to cover the rest of those needed repairs.
I remember the windows. I wasn't on the board at this point, but I think, Scott, you and I talked about the windows were delayed because of some of the logistical COVID type stuff. Do we have now access to those windows too? Is that a rate determining step, or is it really just contractors?
No, excuse me. Here, put this down. At this point, we have access to the window wall system, but the problem right now is the actual windows which open and shut, which are part of that window wall system. So the window wall system will get installed this summer, and then we'll end up using the old windows until we get the new windows, which will probably be during one of the school breaks, and then we'll get the other set of windows in. So So that's where we're at with that project right
So
now.
when the school breaks next year.
Could be during December,
Okay.
okay? Or at certain times, we may pick off just certain classrooms through the course of the year once those windows get in. And then the revolving renovation fund at the high school, on the improvement of the HVAC, that was really directed to the bids that came in on the project, and they came in almost $400,000 more than what the project budget called for. So we're now looking at the project and going to go out to bid again on that project.
Is there
and
any-
redefining it?
Any chance for fall? Because I remember at the beginning of this year, were kids nauseated or reporting of illness because of the heat?
No, we do air quality studies in the building. I'm sure the heat in the fall, I don't know about the heat, but
Yeah.
this time of year, obviously, it's tough in the high school with the heat. But we do air quality studies and test the air in the building and so forth, and the air quality is safe in the building. But we will be looking to get that done as soon as possible.
Yeah, that area would have just taken care of the high school science wing.
Just the science wing,
So the
right.
rest of the building would still have been not air conditioned.
We have a long plan of looking at the high school and doing various wings.
Yeah, we've done energy projects in the past to help with some of the air quality or air conditioning, I should say, not air quality, but in our projects. So we did that at Mabel I. Wilson School. We could do a similar project.
I just installed ACs at my house today. It's
Start to get.
my wife has a different threshold because in Illinois they're not crazy like Mainers are in terms of having AC or not. But okay, that's good to know.
And it is a good reminder, especially if we're entering our warmer months, that there's only a limited number of spaces that have air conditioning. And it's something that we are looking at and continuing to keep on our radar for long-term planning of when we have opportunities. But not all of our campus is air conditioned, especially parts of the high school.
Well, and as everybody knows, these buildings are used year-round and by the community as well as our students. So yeah, we need to move forward on that over time.
Yeah, and it's becoming longer and longer, the time frame in September and into October, and now starting in May, where it gets warm, very warm.
Any other questions on the priorities? Thank you for the presentation. So now we're going to move to items for action. I know Anne wasn't able to be here tonight, but since this is just a second read for deletion, do our other policy committee members feel that we can move forward with this policy? Okay. So can I ask for to approve a motion to approve deletion of policy EGAD-AR copyright compliance administrative procedure as presented?
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you, our two policy committee members. And do one of you just mind reminding us of why we're asking to delete this?
I think the basic idea is that it's being put into procedures within the actual building, so in terms of handbooks and that kind of thing, as opposed to having it in policy. So the librarians, I believe, are particularly involved with working on that right now.
Great.
Am I missing
Correct. Yeah.
anything? Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the board members about the deletion of this policy? Okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, now we have a long list of professional positions. Can I get a motion to approve the appointment of the GMS 6-8 principal position?
I'll move that again.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Annika, can I get a second?
Second.
Great, thanks, Christina. So can we take a moment to talk about this exciting
I'm actually
recommendation?
going to just read publicly the letter I wrote to the board. I think it sums it up.
Thank you.
Pleased to nominate tonight Mr. Monty Selby as the new principal of Greeley Middle School 6-8, beginning in July. As you know, the position of GMS 6-8 principal became vacant when Mari Trebocock was hired to be the new Director of Academic Services for the district in March, but she's not taking that position until July. Over a period of 2 months, 23 applications were received for the position, which is actually high for a school administrative position in the state of Maine. 9 applicants were interviewed for the position during 3 rounds of interviews. previous applicant was offered the position early in the process but declined the offer, prompting the position to be reopened, as you know. Mr. Selby was interviewed by an initial 14-member committee and was the unanimous recommendation to move forward. A second interview was conducted by a smaller team composed of Tom McGinnis, Scott Poulin, Julie Olson, and myself. Recommendation checks were completed with 5 supervisors and staff members connected to his current school. Mr. Selby comes to GMS 6-8 with extensive experience as an educator and school administrator, including his role as superintendent principal at Vinyl Haven Island School for the last 4 years. He has previous experience as a middle school principal, assistant principal, music educator, and associate professor. Monty met many, if not most, of the criteria desired by the 166 stakeholders who participated and responded to the principal attributes survey. And I'd like to thank the interview committee. They went through many, many hours serving on this committee and interviewing to make sure we had the right person for the position. Teachers, Pete Gillingham, Mark Emery, Rachel Adams, Special Education Coordinator, IP Coordinator, Kristen Lewis, School Librarian, Dorothy Hall Riddle, World Language Teacher, Catherine Lane, Ed Tech 3, Laura Boyce, School Office Personnel, Jessica Windsor, 7th grade student, Oscar Lewis, parent, Jenny Burnell, Annika Hole as a board member, and 2 school administrators, Jason LaRiviere and Carol MacArthur. I'd also like to point out that Megan Lichter was involved in one round of the second interviews, as well as Tom McGinnis, obviously, who I mentioned before. Confident that Monty Selby will lead Gridley Middle School 6-8 in a positive, inclusive, and vibrant direction, and with your approval, I look forward to working with Mr. Selby, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to that as well.
Great. Does anyone have any questions? Great. All in favor? Unanimous. Great. It's very exciting to welcome a new principal to our district. Okay, so now we have a number of other professional positions. Can I have a motion for the MIW grade 3? Looks like we have 2 grade 3
We have 2
positions.
positions, yep.
Okay,
So moved.
thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Tim? So, do you want to take us
Yep.
through?
So the first 3rd grade position is a staff member who's actually in a 1-year only position, a teacher right now who's teaching for us in a 1-year position in 3rd grade. And then we had a vacancy, and she applied for the vacancy. We had 39 applicants for the position this year. For this position, 5 applicants were interviewed, and you have the applicant in front of you for approval tonight.
So there's two, like we said, there's 2 positions, so there's 39 applicants for the 2 grade 3 classroom
There was,
positions.
we opened both at the same time. We had 39 applicants for both positions. 5 were interviewed, 2 were selected from the 5 that were interviewed.
And one was internal in that they were in a
Correct.
1-year position.
Yep.
Okay, great,
One was internal and one was external.
great.
Yep.
It's a good number of applicants too. It's nice to see. Any questions? So all in favor, are we taking both the MIW grade 3 then as a group? I guess I wasn't really clear when we started our motion.
You can, or you can do them individually. They're 2 different applicants.
Okay, so let's just do the first one. All in favor of the internal candidate who was hired? Great. Okay, can I get a motion for the second MIW grade 3 position?
So moved. Oh,
Tim.
Second.
Christina, second. Any other questions about the MIW grade 3? Great, all in favor? Okay, all in favor. So can I have a motion for the GMS 4-5 grade 5 position?
So moved.
Great, thanks Megan.
Second.
Thank you, Annika. Can you walk us through this position?
Yes, we had a 5th grade opening. This is due to a retirement at GMS 4-5. We had 33 applicants for the position. That's not on your checklist, but I double-checked that before I came. So we had 33, and that was omitted on the form. 5 applicants were interviewed, and the committee went with actually someone who was working in our district and currently is a long-term substitute in a teaching position, and has also been working in the district for about 18 months in special education and regular education. So the team was very impressed with the applicant before you.
Did I just miss in what you said, Jeff, how many applicants there were?
There were 33 applicants for this position.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous. Can I have a motion to approve the appointment of the GHS MTSS coordinator position?
So moved.
Thank you, Christina. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Megan.
For this position, this is a specialized position, MTSS coordinator. It's only the second position in our district that we have of this nature, and that is basically our RTI coordinator for the high school. As you recall, we have a position just like this at the Wilson School. We took a position that was existing at the high school, which was around RTI and executive functioning, and combined it to make this an MTSS coordinator position, which really oversees response to intervention and multi-tiered supports for students at the high school as a school-level position. So it's working with students directly, but also combining that with some consulting with staff, which we were missing in the previous position. So it is an upgrade. We do have a resignation for the position, so it's not a new position in the budget, just a reconfigured position. We had 4 applicants for the position, 3 were interviewed, and the applicant before you is an external applicant who is being recommended. 4 applicants for a position of this specialty is not unusual. That is a typical number. It's a very specialized position, and few people are qualified to do it.
Any other questions? All in favor? Thank you. And then our final position, can I get a motion for the GMS 6-8 Spanish 0.5 FTE to approve this professional position?
So moved.
Thank you, Annika. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
This is a new budget position, so it's not replacing anyone. And if you recall through the budget process, which I know hasn't been approved by voters, but we do fill positions prior to the vote anyway in our district because we need these positions. This was an added position due to enrollment increases in class sizes and class blocks that teachers are teaching in world languages at the middle level. So we added, the board approved going forward the addition of a 0.5 Spanish teaching position at 6-8. It is very challenging to find world language teachers to begin with, and then to find one for a part-time, I always get nervous. But we found, it took a little bit of time, but found a very qualified person who happens to want just half time, is a parent in our district, and this works out great for this applicant. Exactly what he wanted, and is really excited about the possibility of working in the system, and is a native speaker, and will bring that cultural piece to the position, and we were very excited about it. And it was enjoyable interviewing this applicant as well. Not that I don't ever enjoy all of them, but it was a little bit different.
Great.
I just have to say, this is not at all what I envisioned when we approved a 0.5 Spanish teacher.
Yeah.
This is like we need another player for our basketball team, and like LeBron James.
That's exactly how I feel. Exactly. I think in just the cultural piece that will be brought to the position, this is somebody who's coming from another country and has lived here for a couple of years, but will bring a huge wealth of just cultural pieces to students that I think will be really advantageous. Really excited about that.
Great. That's exciting. All right. All in favor? Looks like it's unanimous. So that took us through the slate of professional positions, and I know you had provided an update after our last board meeting just about how many open positions and how are we doing now?
Since we went all the way back to February when we started looking at vacancies for the year, and going all the way back to February, we have a 6% vacancy rate, which is in line with other more typical years. Last year was not a typical year for staffing, but you go beyond that, even go beyond the pandemic, 6-7% is an average vacancy rate for us on an annual basis from year to year when we're going from year to year. So we're right where we expect to be.
Thank you. So now we're going to move to the superintendent's report.
Yes, and sorry, it's a little bit lengthy, but there's so many awesome things going on, so I really couldn't not put stuff in. Put that on slideshow. So at Mabel I. Wilson School, the PE students in PE at the Wilson School have been doing a lot of skills and activities such as teamwork, cooperative activities, fitness, jumping rope, and striking and fielding. Those are very active classes. We have 2 PE teachers at Wilson School, and you always see them. The kids are moving, they're outside, they're inside. It's always fun to just stop in and just see what they're doing during any particular day. And they're all skill-based. PE classes are all based on state standards, so those are just some visuals of what students have been doing in PE class. GMS 4-5, thanks to the PTO, funding was made possible for a visit to 4th grade students from graphic novel illustrator Josh Alves. Greeley Middle School 4-8 was a great event that has not been around. I think the last time we had this event was 2019, and hoping to make sure this is an annual event again. It used to be. So many thanks to our first responders from Cumberland, North Yarmouth, Yarmouth Fire and EMS, both departments, Cumberland PD and the U.S. Coast Guard, and special thanks to Kristen Lewis, one of our, she's the GMS IEP coordinator, instructional strategist at GMS 6-8, so thanks to Kristen. But it was a great event. We had students checking out. You can see the Coast Guard's boat. I checked it out too. I think I was up there for probably an hour. I was pretty excited about all the buttons and whistles and all the lights and everything. So I might have taken someone's seat there on the boat, but
I was going to say,
kind of enjoyable.
I like it that it's for a little bit older students. You often see these events, and it's great for the little ones, but, you know, adults love this thing too, right?
I was fascinated. I was asking a question. GMS 6-8, the students have an annual, this is really exciting for the kids. They call it a bon voyage to their trout. So they raise these trout each year, and the trout arrive as eggs back in February. And now when they're fry, they find themselves out in the real world, and they have to be let go. And this is a lesson for the kids. You raise these little baby eggs, and then one day you got to release them. So they had their release at Collier Brook, and it was a healthy environment, obviously, for them to be in. And they did water quality testing before they did this, streamside assessment hike, and a bioassessment of microinvertebrates. So it's a very thorough process before they make the release. But this is something that our 6th grade science teachers are involved with the students each year. It's really exciting to see that. And it's a great unit for the kids to learn. Congratulations to GHS seniors Whitney Bond, Elizabeth Hall, Layla Rabbit, Logan Guay, Tommy Leggett-Barr, Henry Hale, Charlie Siegel, and Maddie Yates, along with IB coordinator Kim McDonald, who celebrated completion of 2 years of hard work and accomplishments in the IB full diploma program. And I really it shouldn't say GHS seniors anymore, GHS graduates, right? They graduated yesterday. Greeley High School, congratulations to Natalie Olson for artwork being chosen for the cover of Inkwell. That is the high school's annual magazine that they publish, or publication. Also at Greeley High School, but really not Greeley High School, in France, bonjour. And this is actually, this is an email from Madame McDonald, who you can see on the right there, a French teacher at Greeley High School. She is standing with one of our students, Cora Mar, who is over in France right now. It's part of the exchange that we had that was approved earlier this year by the Maine Department of Education, which exchanges one of our students with a student in France. The student in France came over and spent several weeks here at Greeley, and now it is Cora's turn to be in France, and they arrived just a few days ago. Actually, she'll be spending 2 months with a family in France, and then Madame McDonald went over to make sure that she was settled in and everything went well, and she'll be attending classes until the end of their school year, our school year, and then their school year, which does not coincide with ours. So she'll actually be taking classes right through the month of July. So really great exchange, and thank you to the Department of Ed for sponsoring the funds for that. Greeley High School Senior Walk. So on Friday, this has been an annual tradition now for several years. All of our senior or soon-to-be graduates, before they graduate, walk through each of the schools, and just, you know, it's really exciting to watch them interact with younger students and with staff and teachers. Lots of hugs and lots of noise, and kids are, you know, crying, screaming, everything. Just a lot of fun. And here's a video of they were going from the middle school to the high school, so they had just left the middle school. I guess the buffering's not working. All right, well, that's an embedded video, so we'll see how it goes. Well, you get the point. All the graduates are going up to the high school. They'd walk through Wilson School. You can see them actually walking. It was a great day, so they were outside. A lot of students from the modulars were outside waiting for them. They went over to the middle school, walked all the way around, and now they're going up the hill to the high school and to be greeted. So just a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, a lot of hype. Just 2 days away from graduation, so something to always look forward to for everybody, really, I have to say. And then on Sunday was graduation. It was a perfect day for graduation. Maybe a tad bit too hot, but that's okay. No one really noticed. You know, there's the graduates up in the right-hand corner just before they're going outside. It was a perfect ceremony, went off without a hitch, a great class of students. Actually today I heard that many, many times, that people are going to miss this class a lot. They were just a decent class of kids, and so I think they're sorry to lose them. And that is the annual thing where they toss their caps up in the air. I obviously, Madame Chair, you were there yesterday, shaking hands, and I know Christina was there. I think Denny was there. I don't know who else was there, but I just want to say thank you for everybody just supporting the class of 2024 in whatever way you're able to. It's great. And this was one of the activities, of course. There's a whole list of activities, class night, etc. There's a barbecue, there's a breakfast. This is the barbecue. Our facilities crew always likes to cook the burgers and hot dogs for the seniors. How come I didn't get one of these this year? I think I was in a meeting, unfortunately. I usually get a burger, but anyway. Congratulations to William Young and Tommy Leggett Barr, who took home the 2024 Western Maine Conference Doubles Tennis Championship and have qualified now for the states. And speaking of states, congratulations to both the girls and boys track teams for winning the state championship on Saturday. So congratulations, and we have several teams that are in the hunt for a possible, that we're in the playoff season. So I wasn't even done. I know you thought I was done. Nope.
Well, I was
There's
just
even
gonna,
more.
I was going to add to the. It was when I saw Tommy yesterday. So not only is he doing tennis, he's also part of the track team, and he's never been part of the boys championship states team. So he was really happy to end his with his senior year, with also being able to be part of a state championship.
You were right, Tom. He has more hours than the rest of us. Employee of the Year finalists, we do this every year, and I believe we had 34 nominations. These are staff members who nominate other staff members in the district. We do this annually. We've done this for many, many years. And we had 4 finalists, Lindsay Horowitz, Sherry McInnes, Katie Payne, and Brianna Robbins are our 4 finalists. We went around, put the red carpet out for them. Christina is a member of the selection committee for the finalists in the final recipient of this award for the year, which we have not announced. We'll be announcing that next Wednesday at our all-staff celebration event, Wednesday afternoon. So one of these 4 finalists will end up being the MSAD 51 staff member of 2024. Did I miss anyone? I know Christina was involved. Scott heads up that committee. And who else? Can you remind us who's on the committee?
Mallory.
Oh, Mallory Orsachowski is also on the committee. And so they look at all the nominations and then make the selection of finalists, visit the finalists, and kind of embarrass them in front of students and staff members, roll the red carpet out with balloons, make a big deal about it. And then they'll really, whoever it is, one of them will be selected next week. So that's always an exciting event.
And I would just add, it was really, really hard to get it down to 4, and then really hard to get it down to 1. They're just so
They're
many.
all deserving.
Seriously deserving, seriously. So,
Hard choices.
Yeah.
This is the second year you've done that, right, Christina? Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure it was no easier this year. Just a reminder, we have a page on our website for the school project. For anyone that would still like to watch any of the videos, we have virtual videos on several topics, but one thing that was added, and thank you to Tim in particular, we now have a tax impact calculator. You can go onto our webpage, the building project page, click on which town you live in and put your assessed value in, and it will give you the information by year what your tax impact will be. So thank you, Tim, for getting that done for us. It's been up there for about a week now, I think. So we put it in the newsletter, and it's been on social media too, so people are aware of it. And also, just to make you aware, the board is aware of this, but put out their organizational efficiency study. We've hired NASDAQ, which we're a member of that organization. We still have to pay a small fee for doing that, but they've been hired to review our organizational practices as the district continues to grow rapidly over the last few years. A lot of districts in Maine have started having a study done to make sure that the organizational structure that's in place is adequate in meeting the pace and challenges of the district. The board has adjusted positions over the years, but we still want to make sure we've got the right staffing levels, especially administrative staffing levels, to handle not only the enrollment that we have today, but the enrollment going forward. And so step 1 has been completed with a consultant who has sent out a survey. It's a confidential survey that's sent to all administrators and quasi-administrators in the school district. And so those results are in now. And myself and the consultant will be looking at those, and we're the only ones that see those. From there, the consultant will then conduct additional steps and get more information so that eventually the board will get a report at the end of it. We're thinking the report will probably come late fall at this point. But just wanted board to know that that is in process. And finally, I do need to, Susie Robbins usually does this report, but she retired, so guess what? I get to do it. This is the annual ESSA program annual report. It's required by federal law since we get money from the federal government. We receive money in Title 1A, Reading and Math Support, Title 2A, Supporting Instruction, Title 3A, English Language Acquisition, and Title 4A, Student Support. I just want to make, okay, I was looking at the variance. So each year we receive federal monies. They flow through the Maine Department of Education. You'll see that we are getting less money this year. We're expected to get less money. We usually get receipt of those funds in July. So we'll be getting about 12,000 less in Title 1A and Title 2A. We're actually getting some money in Title 3A for the first time in many, many years. That's the English language acquisition, because we have more students now who have enrolled in the district who are ELL learners. So we're actually going to get a little bit of money. We might be getting more money down the road, but it goes back in averages over the last couple of years. And then student support, we're getting $10,000, which is about what we've been receiving for a number of years.
And just on the top, is it STAR? Does that supposed to be 24, 25, the estimate for next year?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
that's
just
typo.
me. Okay, so that is.
Yes, thank you for letting me know,
Okay.
yes. That should be 24, 25, what we're estimating.
Okay.
So we're estimating we'll get 106,000, just under 106,000 for next year. And as you can see, that's $11,500 less than the current year.
Is
So
it because we have fewer students who need these types of supports?
it's all based on demographics.
Okay.
Free and reduced lunch absolutely weighs into that. That's why we always encourage, even though all of our meals are now free through the state and the federal government, we still encourage parents to please fill out the free and reduced lunch forms if you're eligible or you think you might be eligible, because we do get federal funds on the backside from those forms. So that's an important part. We try really hard to push that. Even though the meals are free now, it still helps us with things like this. So just to let people know. And our plan for use of funds, which is permissible under federal rules, is to continue using those funds to support our 2 literacy interventionists and coaches at Mabel I. Wilson School. We have 2, one for K1 and one for 2-3, and they provide interventions and coaching also for staff that need it, and this covers about half of their salaries and benefits. And finally, this year, occasionally this happens based on certain criteria. GMS 6-8 was identified as a Tier 1 status school, which just means that there were some criteria in based on the state assessment, which is what's called the MEA through year, which is really the NWEA assessment. As most of you know that by, it is the MEA test in the state of Maine. And there were 3 indicators which identified GMS 6-8 as needing to be a Tier 1 status school. It just means that there were some things that the school needs to work on, and we put a plan into place. There is no additional money that comes with it, and really very little other support, except the school has to put together a plan, has to be approved by the Department of Ed, and there has to be growth shown in 1 year's time. So this year, we did have a high rate of chronic absenteeism. Anything is considered a high rate. The collective absenteeism, that is 10% or more in a school in 1 year. So there was over 10% of our students who are chronically absent from school. State law now requires that students who are chronically absent have to be reported to the Department of Education, and the school has to have plans in place for helping to get students to school, but it doesn't mean that those plans necessarily will help every student get to that place, and we had 10% of our students that were identified. The participation rate on state assessments has to be 95% or above. So in the previous year, this goes back to the previous year, 2022-23, this criteria is actually based on the previous year. We had a number of students, our parents, that opted their children out of the state assessment that year. And because we were below 95%, I think we were at, I don't remember the exact percentage, we're in the 90s, but it was below 95. That automatically is a reason why you can be put on a Tier 1 status plan, is just not having enough students taking the assessment. So we had a lot of students that day either didn't come to school, their parents opted them out, and they went to a study hall that day. You won't see that in the current year. We did change some of our messaging, our communication, and some of our protocols. And so I don't think that you'll see that again in this year. Economically disadvantaged student groups, so the federal government requires that you look at not just your whole school, but also subgroups within your school. And we had one subgroup, which is the economically disadvantaged subgroup at GMS 6-8, which did not meet the achievement and growth goals for mathematics during the 22-23 school year. And as a result of that, that can be, so any one of those three areas can make you a Tier 1 status school. And we had those three areas that made us a Tier 1 status school. Again, I'm not trying to dismiss it, but it is something that we're on a plan. We work with the department. It gets approved. We actually have a meeting tomorrow with the department. And then we work on that plan for the year and show growth and improvement. And if we've shown enough growth, then we get off the plan. I think based on the criteria that you're looking at, I'm not entirely surprised. In fact, the chronic absenteeism, again, was during the 22-23 year. We had a lot of absenteeism that were coming off of the pandemic. Not making excuses, but I'm surprised that we don't have more schools that might have been in that situation, actually, considering the high absence rates we had during the pandemic and then coming out of the pandemic. And if you want to learn more about the ESSA report card, you want to get more information than what I just provided, we have a whole page on the district. You go to the district and tab down to ESSA report card. It'll bring you to this page, and then you can scroll down and you can actually go to the state and see the state ESSA report card as well as our district's report card. And this is, again, federal report card. It goes back to the No Child Left Behind days of 2002. Just the next iteration of No Child Left Behind. So that is finally my report after all that.
And so you said that was based on the 2022-23 absenteeism has this past
Yes.
year's.
Yes, our absenteeism is much healthier this year, much healthier. Yeah,
Okay.
we've been tracking it all year long,
Okay.
looking at everything. There was a couple of dip points, but those were typical vacation weeks.
Okay.
There was a period where there was some real sickness for a couple weeks during this year, and we dipped a little bit, but not to the level that we had seen. And we would rebound pretty quickly, so.
Other questions?
Is that absentee in line with other schools typically?
I think for the 22-23 school year, I would say so.
Okay,
Yeah, with other districts, you mean?
yeah.
Yes. Chronic absenteeism has been a problem for the 3 years of the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So I'm hoping that you'll see improvements when we report this next year. Well, I think Denny has a question.
Oh, Denny?
On the economically disadvantaged, Jeff, I don't know if you have the percentage in mind. I know our poverty rate by the census is under 5%.
Yes.
So this is a small cohort, is it?
It is. It's suppressed, so we can't provide the data because it's less than the 10%. Anything less than 10% is suppressed, so we don't have the information to provide. But the department is telling us that, that's where we're at.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was busy on the dashboard.
And
It says 3.3% were economically disadvantaged at Greeley Middle School in the 2022-23 school year. Is that right?
And I think a lot of, this raises a question, and it's been raised before. How accurate is that? Before the free meals during the pandemic came into place, our economic disadvantage numbers were usually anywhere from 6 to 8%. Again, very low still compared to other districts in Maine. But I don't think that the number of 3.5% is reflective of what we actually have. But again, people are not reporting that through paperwork. And so there's nothing, we do our best to get the message up, but we can't make people fill that out. There's no other piece to it beyond that, because we do offer free meals now. So it's difficult to track that entirely. I think our social workers do a really good job, and our school counselors trying to stay on top of who they know, who they're aware of.
So other questions? Great, thank you. So now we're going to move to our committee reports. Sophia, just you for the student reports.
No, I don't have much to share because Mr. Porter kind of
Oh, no,
covered.
We've got to coordinate.
Well,
You tell me what you want to do, and I'll stay
it's
away
okay.
from it.
I mean, graduation, I was there. It was nice. It was a little hot. I definitely was sweating, but it was better than the one a couple years ago. So that's a plus. And it was outside. Last year we did not get to have it outside, and it was a little bit sadder. So I'm happy that it was outside. There's not really much going on other than seniors are officially out of the building, so it's a little bit empty now. But incoming freshmen, and rising seniors have step-up day this Wednesday, so we'll go to all of our new classes. That's pretty exciting. Not so exciting for me because all of my classes are 2 years long, so I'll just have normal classes. And then next week, final exams are starting, so that's where all the students are at. Lots of studying going on, so.
Great. And I heard that you'll be interviewing the candidate
Yes.
for the next school
This
board seat.
Friday.
Yes.
I'm very excited.
Do you know how many
Yes.
applicants?
I think there was
6.
6, yep.
And thank you. I think Christina's sitting in on those too. So
Yes,
look
yep.
forward to it.
Another difficult thanks a lot.
I know,
I
I know.
like it. I enjoy
I
it.
know.
It's good.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Megan, community engagement.
Community engagement. Would like to invite all board members to join us on the 7th, next week, at 2 p.m. This week. Oh, sorry. The 7th is this week. Today is Monday. That would be Friday. We're going to meet out here in the parking lot at 2 p.m. and then fan out to do some door knocking to get the word out about the vote on Tuesday and the new school project and why it's so important. So if you have some time and would like to join us, please do. If you would rather spread the word from your phone, Tommy sent out some phone banking information that's quite good. And social media is still abuzz with all of our messaging. So this is an exciting last week before the vote.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks so much. Tom, finance.
Just remember to vote. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Policy. I know Anne is in here, and I think your last meeting had been canceled.
Yeah,
so
the last meeting was canceled, so we have our next and final meeting on June 11th.
June 11th. Oh, big day. Christina, facilities.
I would echo Tom to vote. There's a lot of information on the school website, on the new school building and the turf field, and just want to reiterate that all decisions are not made, whether it's the heating air conditioning system or whether it's the exactly how the new field would be made. There's a lot of information yet to be decided, and committees will be very involved. Community members can be very involved in making those decisions. Nothing's really in stone at this point, so to speak, stone. Anyway, so that's the facilities pitch I have. Our last meeting is actually this Friday on other things involving facilities.
Great. Thanks, Christina. Tom, curriculum.
We had our last meeting of the year this afternoon. It was a really interesting meeting where we focused on Indigenous peoples' studies. Did you want to say a few words? I mean, I can cover it, but I feel like this is an
Joint. Well, I had asked the committee if they could take a look at it because I have been following in the press that the legislature and indeed the tribes have been critical of the schools for not picking up Wabanaki education, which is legislated to be done. And so I was very pleased to hear from three of the schools, all 3 schools that have a well-developed curriculum in this area that goes beyond Wabanaki to Indigenous people in the Americas also. That was greatly exceeding my expectations. So I if you hear criticism in that regard out in the community, you can rest assured that our faculty and staff are right on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was such a thoughtful presentation, and yeah, far exceeded my expectations. So kudos to our teachers.
Thank you. That's really wonderful to hear because, yes, I'd also been reading the articles about it in the paper and the fact that we're doing it well. And I wonder, too, then if there's other ways we could support districts who might need some help in their curriculum. So thank you for sharing and bringing that forward to the curriculum committee. All right, so equity, I know Kim's in here. Tim, do you want to give an update on the last meeting?
Sure. I unfortunately wasn't able to make it. I know that they went over the main integrated youth health survey data, which was obviously something that has many implications, especially across the DEI spectrum. And so I am as fascinated as you guys are about what was kind of discussed at that meeting. The next scheduled one is June 13th. I have my doubts that that's going to go like a normal meeting, just given what next Tuesday is. But yeah, it's been a great year. We have some parting members just due to various things. But I'm very grateful for everyone that's volunteered this year. We got a lot done and a lot more exciting things to have like full calendar year to actually do everything next year. So it was a good end of the year.
Great, thank you. Yes, and I know we have a couple committees that have community members that have volunteered a lot of their time over the past year, and I know we'll have that hopefully at our next agenda to do some recognition of those community members who've also served as part of board committee, so I look forward to that. Any other ad hoc committee reports since we last met? Denny?
Yes, Scott asked me to bring us up to date on his ad hoc committee for recycling and food waste, which has been meeting diligently throughout the year with a broad number of participants, students, and the operations staff. I think we've made really surprising progress. I believe we made a decision this last meeting to move forward with all paper recycling. This is fairly straightforward because we already have a bin out there for cardboard, and so student volunteers are going to empty all the waste baskets of paper right into that, and I think we'll be good to go. That goes right over to EcoMaine and goes on the recycling floor, and we learned a lot about paper. Paper gets recycled about 3 times before it gives up the ghost, so it's a very worthwhile endeavor to do a better job with our timberlands. And we've made, I think, quite a bit of progress. You may have to correct me here, Scott, but in terms of food waste, which is what we'd like to pick up with the district would be in September, the school lunch folks have been heavily involved, and I think we're pretty, got most of the pieces in place. We're going to meet in a couple of weeks with Garbage to Garden, who looks like the vendor that can meet our needs, and they will pick up the food waste and send it into composting, as opposed to it's going now to EcoMaine to be burned, so it becomes compost as opposed to carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. And the school staff, the school lunch staff, I think feels pretty well organized to have the children and students find a way to get the food waste into the right pail so it can go out to the right dumpster. That'll probably take a little bit of work, but I think the school administrators that have been attending the meeting have been supportive. So that's my say. So Scott, you want to add?
I think you covered it, Denny. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I know this has been an important topic for our students, and I'm really glad that we were able to get really far this year in our ability to handle both food waste and also recycling. And so thank you for all the efforts that's gone into that. Really appreciate it.
I did forget to mention straws. So there's plastic straws and paper straws. We use about 200,000 straws a year. And the paper straws are 4 cents and the plastic straws are less than 1 cent. So that's $8,000 of money. And I think our food resource people have indicated many districts have started to withdraw from straws at all. And that seems to be the direction we might be headed. The staff is going to make, there's really probably no reason to have straws. So that would be a quick fix.
Habit.
And the only thing I would say, Leanne, is we've had a great group and we've met throughout the year, so I appreciate everybody's, working on this with us, and Denny, you've been an integral part of that, so thank you.
It's been a lot of fun.
Sophia?
I would just add that there was applause in my advisory today whenever we found out that recycling was being reintroduced. So everyone is very excited about this.
That's awesome.
And I just want to add that I we received a bunch of letters in our office from some 4th and 5th graders last month or so about all of this, everything that you've been talking about, that you've been working on, and it's great to hear. Letters were encouraging things like straws, maybe even getting rid of straws, or at least going to paper straws, or even metal. I went over and met with some students from Mrs. McFarland and Mrs. Follett's classes, and they had a lot of ideas, and a lot of them, it's great to hear tonight, because these were things that they had brought forward that they feel like should be changed. So
Great.
it's great to hear.
Thank you.
Did realize I have one
Yes,
quick
go ahead.
talk thing. So Foundation 51 is hosting a last day soiree on June 14th, the last day of school, from 1 to 3 p.m. at the North Yarmouth Community Center. And they are requesting RSVPs on their Facebook event so that they will have enough ice cream.
Great. That's exciting. It's a nice way to end the committee updates. So have to check that out. Okay, so this next item, communications, I always sort of mention that it's usually blank as it remains today, just kind of open. And I would be remiss to not spend a moment just to talk a little about the important vote next Tuesday, June 11th. And I want to take a moment to thank my fellow board members for all the work that everyone has put into getting us to this point, to having this bond to vote on, and to our administrators, not only the ones sitting here, but the ones that have really, not only this year, but in prior years, helped us to get a plan in place to bring to our voters. So I just want to take just a little minute to maybe say a little bit of a closing statement. And I just want to strongly encourage members of our community to vote yes on this proposal, and I'll just take a minute to say why. Seeing all the signs up for candidates, I remember myself as a candidate 2 years ago, and I felt very strongly that part of what my community was asking me to do as a candidate is to put a plan forward that our community could get behind for a school project. And I've seen the overcrowding of our schools, and as a board member, really seeing up close how untenable and unsustainable it is. The fact that we have over a third of our pre-K to 8 population in temporary classrooms, and those students, they're mostly the youngest learners now, are going to continue to move up through the grades, and that number is expected to double within 10 years, and our projections have been very close to all of the estimates that we've had. So that is the future that we're looking at, that our existing infrastructure is not designed to support. And it's not just the students that are in portables. Yes, the portable classrooms do work, those classrooms, but what we don't have is the permanent buildings that bring the students together, bring our faculty together, our staff in the cap to serve much fewer students. That those are the common spaces which all these students are now using. And so we need spaces, not only the classrooms, but the individual spaces for individual learning and special education. The modulars just don't provide those in the same way. And since the previous project in North Yarmouth was rejected, we have really spent a long time listening and learning from our community. And in response, we really view that the new proposal addresses a number of the issues by utilizing our land more efficiently and keeping all of our schools on a single campus to leverage our shared resources, and ensuring that a more cohesive and cost-effective solution will be available going forward. So not only is the bond project less than $20 million from the 2022 proposal, it accomplishes a lot more than that project on the school in North Yarmouth. We're able to do a lot more on campus to address other things that have made the infrastructure that have been challenging for our infrastructure, and keeping the building on campus will also make that more cost effective. But this whole plan did not come easily, and has required a good amount of creativity, and that we really look to utilize the campus as best we could. It not only eliminates the temporary classrooms, but improves so many other features of the campus. The removal of the portables will help us reclaim playing fields and connect our community again. It also provides more spaces for community events, gathering, athletics, and eliminating the large clusters of portables is important, but if we don't have a new school to move kids into, those students that are crowding the elementary school are going to be moving up to the middle school, and we'll have to invest in another very large set of portables. Yesterday was an incredible celebratory day for our seniors, and what a beautiful day it was. The outdoor amphitheater provided such a great backdrop for our families to enjoy this day. I was thrilled to be part of that ceremony, but as I sat on the stage and looked at our campus, what I saw was that huge set of portable classrooms filled with students who won't have the same opportunities on this campus as the class that was graduating. Their fields and playgrounds are going to continue to be filled with space to hold them because they don't fit. We have a plan to make them fit and expand the spaces to bring everyone together. And I think what's been so challenging is 5% of the project has been adding a turf field. It's been the center of attention. This was challenging for me to understand a field space as part of our campus, as part of the overall project. And when I listened and heard and understood what it meant to have more space available year-round on a campus, I understood why we voted as a board to include it in order to responsibly use our limited space and resources. As Christina mentioned earlier, what we've asked our voters to improve is a price of a bond where we've put together a plan of all the elements that we want to include, and we are having committees that will make decisions about what those actual elements are that get placed on our campus. Every board member shares concerns about wanting to make sure we're not exposing our children and community members to toxins, and we will do our due diligence to ensure that we're selecting products, not just for our field. We need to look everywhere we're selecting and making choices about what we put on our campus and how we use these dollars. And I'm excited to invite community members into that process going forward with hopefully a yes vote on the school project. And so throughout this process, we've done our best to communicate with the town and stakeholders. We've held many public meetings, both towns, virtual, in-person, site walks, multiple sessions on the budget. We've made the architect, engineers, administrators, board members, sports medicine doctors available to try to help everyone understand what was being put forward into the project. And I also understand there's a cost associated with this, and it is significant, and I understand and appreciate that it impacts every household differently. But I hope this is what our community can understand, that the investment that we're making, that we've presented a plan that has the value to make it worth it, and that the public education is not just something that we're paying for, that's we're investing in for our children, but also the community. I really see the district, the campus as a community campus. This is why we live in these communities. This school is incredible, but the overcrowding issue is not a future issue, it's a current one, and I really hope that we can, that our community agrees that this proposal will be the investment that is worth the future of our community. And so, and also that it's not a choice between a tax increase now or no tax increase, and unfortunately, the students still exist, and we're still going to have to figure out how they have a place to learn. And so I just, again, invite everyone to take all the information they can into consideration. If anyone wants to reach out to board members, other community members who are making a decision between now and next Tuesday, I just believe this is the right investment for our entire community, and I hope we can come together and vote yes to support our schools and for the generations to come. So I guess that's my last ask of our community for the work that we've done to try to put something forward. Okay, so I think I used that communication item
Well,
today.
used it.
So the last is to move to an executive session. I'd like to recommend to enter executive session to discuss negotiations between the MSAD 51 Education Association and the MSAD 51 Board of Directors pursuant of state statute MRSA 456D. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Christina, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Annika, thank you. And all in favor? All right, it's unanimous. So that ends the public portion of today's meeting.